what am I going for here? Am I being on my absolute best branded self? Am I being honest and open? Where are we going here?
We're going honest and open. We got to get some funny TikTok content.
Okay. You're looking for funny. You're on the wrong channel, but that's fine.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kayla. I am the social media manager here at MCProHosting, and I am here with the one, the only, Zine. Hello, Zine. How are you doing on this fine day?
Hi, I'm doing well. Although, little known fact, there's actually two of us. There's me and there's also me. But yeah, so it's not the one, the only. It's the two Zines. But don't worry about it.
Which Zine do I have today?
The main one.
The main one. Okay, good.
I didn't think the bit this far through. Honestly, like I was just like, yeah, that'll be funny, and then it turned out it wasn't. Anyway, hi, how you doing?
I am doing great. So today we are going to be playing some Spleef. I have seen across the Twitters that you are the Spleef master.
I wouldn't say that's true. Not in an actual environment. I'm known for spleefing poor Captain Sparklez during our regular playthroughs, but that's more of an unsuspecting spleef than like a competitive spleef.
Right. Right.
So it's more I sneak up on you and drop you down when you're not expecting it, like that sort of thing. Anyway, no, I'm the best spleefer you've ever met. I've initiated start.
Oh no.
This is fine.
This is gonna be fine.
I figured we could talk about it, or we could just, start swinging at each other. So what brings you by on this day?
Kevin. Kevin brings me by on this day. I woke up this morning and he was like, hey, so I don't know what's on your schedule for today, but I know what's on your schedule now. And it's talking to Z. Surprise. And I was like, excellent. This is the best news I've ever received.
I mean, I would be pretty like that would ruin my day as well. So I understand.
I didn't say it ruined my day. I don't have to do spreadsheets. This is way more fun.
Spreadsheets are nice.
Spreadsheets.
They're supposed to be down there.
No, you're supposed to be down there. No. Oh my word.
Okay, bye.
All right, beginner's luck.
Okay, bye. So you woke up and Kevin sent me a message. He was like, she's a little indisposed at the moment, but she'll be there. I like that translates to she's still asleep. Don't worry, I'll make her show up.
I was not asleep. I was not. I was taking my lunch to go pick up my groceries.
Oh yes.
I was going to go do my pickup, and he called me and was like, hey, so when you get back, you've got stuff to do. I was like, oh, okay, no worries.
Just FYI.
So
again, I actually, like, you had asked me a long time ago about this, and I was like, sure, no problem. And then I just did not check back until I realized today that I had missed a message. And to me, it was a little, like, the irony was just that you had asked like 2 or 3 weeks ago, about having this conversation, and I didn't respond, and then it turns out when you had asked, it was for today. So the day that I managed to accidentally run across the conversation and go, oh, I missed this, was the day that you were actually asking about. So that was serendipitous.
Oh yeah, it was the universe aligning.
Yeah, everything came up Millhouse.
Oh, absolutely. I felt kind of bad because you were like, oh, just ping me. But I've been told 100 times, never ping partners. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because it's like some people just really hate pings, and to me it's like that's what the platform's for. That's how it's supposed to work. Like that's why the feature's there. And so why is there a Why are people so anti whatever?
Yeah.
That's just me, apparently.
So here we are going to figure out, we're going to get to the bottom of who is Zine. Who is he?
I've been wondering for a few years, but I'm glad that you're deciding.
Yeah, this is now actually a therapy session. We're going to get to the bottom of who you are as a person.
Well, really, I blame my parents. It all started when I was a kid. But
good.
Anyway.
Good.
Yeah.
So... I guess my first question on my list that I'm curious about, because I have weirdly enough been watching your content for a long time, actually. I was a Minecraft kid, so, you know. Where did the name Zine come from? Where did that come out?
So the name Zine is actually taken from a older game called Might and Magic, surprisingly Clouds of Zine. It came out in 1993. Okay, bye. I didn't. You fell off. I didn't spleef you. You fell off. But let's just not talk about that. Let's pick our. Let's resume. But yeah. So it was actually a name of a villain in a Might and Magic game from back in the day, and I, at that particular time in my life, was like, that sounds pretty cool. Let me be. Oh, now I fell off. Put me back on. Let me be that person. And so I actually, probably one of the geekiest things about me is that I learned kind of like my entire social world. Nice.
Finally.
Good place. My social world came online in what were called bulletin boards. They were pre-internet kind of, but you dial in with a modem and chat with other people. And so you needed to have a name for that, and that's where I started using Zine early on, and it's just stuck. I've just kept with it. It used to have ease, and then at some point, somewhere I wanted to sign in, it was like, that name's already taken by, I don't know, some imposter out there. And so I was like, well, I'll do, lead speak and switch to threes. And so it became X33N, and now people have been confused about how to spell my name ever since.
How often do people call you X33N, like unironically?
Not terribly often, but I mean, it can happen. The X33N is my favorite. That was a special one where I was like, really, bud? That was okay.
X33N.
X33N. And they're like, this is I have an idea, and I was like, okay. But yeah, the typically I get Xzine or Zine. And that's all fine. Like, I don't blame people. There's the one that kind of surprises me is I'll have people like on the Twitter channel or like on one of my channels, but actually like typing ZEEN, and it's like, I'm here. You got here. You got this far. So how is it that you how is it that you're misspelling it now? And then I realized that they're doing it to be actually kind of mean-spirited, and it was their idea of insulting me. And I was like, oh yeah, no, you got me, bud.
Oh, I'm so hurt.
Misspelling my name like that. I just, I'm so. Anyway, people are silly, but that's where the name came from, and I've had it for a while.
So I'm trying to think, when did that game come out?
93.
Oh my goodness.
That's the 1993.
Not 2093? It's not.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. So if that game came out in 1993, what was your first ever video game that you've played?
I mean, first ever, like, I remember being excited to get a glimpse of a Nintendo that a neighbor had gotten. And so it might be that, or it might be like from some of my original computer stuff, like some of the King's Quest. King's Quest 3 is the one that jumps to mind first, although I played 2, so that seems like that would have happened first. But at any rate, somewhere around there.
Oh my goodness.
Somewhere in that vicinity.
Are there any of those old games that like still have a special place in your heart? Not to be cheesy.
I actually on my sorry. On my stream, I actually have played some of my older favorites, and there's one that's called, it was originally called Star Control 2, but now you can get it for free as Urquan Masters, and I showed some, I played that a day or two on stream. Not a ton, like we didn't do like an entire Let's Play, but kind of showed it, talked about it, and had a few people that were like, yeah, no, I picked it up, and it was fun, and they've enjoyed it, because it's very It does a lot with, you know, the older technologies, but has a big immersive story to it and everything like that. So it was so I've shown a little bit about, you know, some of my roots. The original game that got me into computers, really, it was Civilization, because at first I guess I'm gonna get kicked for flying. Sorry. I'll be back in a minute.
How could you fly? Flying's not allowed on this server. The heck?
I mean, I did it anyway. So, where was I? Anyway, that completely like broke my train of thought.
The first game that got you into computers.
Oh yeah, sorry. I turned into kind of a console guy, like just on Nintendo, and played Nintendo games for a long time, and then I had an old computer that I'd long since forgotten, and it wasn't a great one, and you know, I was like, consoles are way better, etc. And then I saw two games. One was the original Civilization, and the second was a Wing Commander, I believe. And seeing those two games and seeing a computer that had a actual Sound Blaster sound card instead of just making little doot doot noises out of its PC speaker made me realize that maybe there's something to this whole PC world as well. And that got me back into the PC master race life.
Oh my goodness. That's so interesting to me, because I never had a console era. My dad was a computer programmer. He fixed computers on the side. I sat in front of a computer by the time I could sit up straight. So like, there just were never consoles in my house. So now, like, I've got a PS5 and Switch, and even with those games, every time I play a game there, I'm like, I really wish this was on PC. Because it's just what you get comfortable with. So I always find it cool when people are comfortable on both and have switched back and forth throughout their life.
Yeah, I definitely, like, as we got into like the Xbox and PlayStation era and stuff like that, like, I've been much more PC oriented that way for a long time. I did get into the Xbox 360 for a bit, primarily for Gears of War and some friends and coworkers who played that a lot, and that was fun. But the for the most part, I would say I'm more of a PC guy. It's just what I've known, and I also learned how to build my own PCs and kind of do all that stuff, so that made it nice and fun.
It's like adult Legos. That's what I always call it.
Little bit.
Grown-up Legos.
There's like a whole thing down there.
Oh my goodness. These maps are really cool. Oh my goodness.
My goodness, indeed. So yeah, I know both, but I would definitely say PC is it. And this is the first controversial thing I'll say, maybe, but I'm not. I learned a long time ago. I got annoyed with Sony and their frequent proprietary formats. Kind of like they just have always been pushing their own formats, and I went through the whole Blu-ray versus HD DVD thing, and you know, memory sticks and stuff, like, and I got tired of them. It felt very anti-consumer as a company, and so I told myself I'm not going to buy Sony stuff anymore, and I've stuck to that. And I realized that, you know, that's excluded me from all the PlayStation world, and there's a lot of PlayStation people who love it, and I don't resent them for that. I don't expect anyone else to follow me on my little quest, but I just decided I didn't want to support that, and so I've not done any on the Sony side of things. Although I have been playing a couple Sony games that finally came out on PC, so I got to finally play Gears of War, or not, excuse me, God of War, the latest one, and everyone was like, "What do you think of this?" And you know, the stuff, and I'm like, I don't know the history on any of this. I've never played the game before. And they're like, "Are you gonna play the next one?" I was like, probably in about 4 years when it comes out on PC, because it takes a good long while.
He's like, and I'm not buying a PS5.
Yeah, and so right now I'm doing the Marvel Spider-Man remaster, so I'm kind of like, I'm getting to see a little bit of that. I keep hoping for Last of Us because that looks interesting, but they just keep remaking that and re-releasing it for themselves, and so I don't know that that'll ever come where I'll be able to touch it. But
oh, I want to play Last of Us so bad. It looks such a good game.
It looks pretty good, you know, and so I've wavered a little on my solitary fight of what a pointless fight against Sony, but I haven't yet fallen, so.
Well, maybe you single-handedly will convince Sony to release their games on PC faster.
I don't believe that'll be the case, but who's to say? One of the interesting things being me is I'm a little bit older than a lot of the other creators. We don't speak of my age, but I'm not quite as young as some of the others you might. And one of the things that I have to deal with that's really kind of interesting, and I don't think a lot of people kind of recognize or maybe they haven't encountered as much, but I know and have played mini games enough to know that I am physically and at my age slower than I was before. I can't aim I can't twitch aim as well. I can't I'm not old and decrepit. I can't and shaking a cane, but when you're talking those milliseconds of time to aim versus the other person, I can very distinctly feel and tell that I am slower in that regard than I used to be. And that is something that probably takes back a lot from or causes a lot of the frustration, because it is very frustrating to know you used to be better than what you are, it's a weird thing, but it's very much the truth.
So, first of all, 25's not that old, Zine. Come on.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
But
I agree that 25 is not that old.
But speaking of, you've been making content for a while, but you've also, like you said, you're older than some of the other content creators. So I imagine you've probably had some other jobs, some other things in your life prior to content creation. So
things have been encountered, yes.
So what sorts of things did you do before entering the sort of gaming content creation space, and what brought you, what inspired you to start making content?
Oh goodness, I have to talk about him.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
I have a feeling.
Yeah, I actually had a whole corporate career. I ended as director of development. I started out, answering phones, helping little old ladies get their email, worked my way up to tech support manager, moved over into systems and systems administrator, and then network administrator, and then ultimately application development, and then I took over the management side and was director of development before kind of leaving that realm. But I got into content creation and all of the YouTube world and stuff, all pretty much primarily through Captain Sparklez. I watched him back in the day, and I remember watching the very first video where it was his ultra modded survival. He titled it "I Am an Ant," and I was like, "What is this?" And I watched it through and found it to be pretty enjoyable, and ended up watching all of that. And through that, he also started doing a series called My Night, and as well as he started doing some off-camera, quote unquote, work on Twitch, where he would do grinding and repetitive tasks live on Twitch before recording his video for YouTube. And so that introduced me to Twitch as well, and so that's where I kind of started to get to know this world. And then I was just a viewer, just watched for a while, and it was kind of interesting because there's been a couple people in my life where I have looked at them and said, I don't know them, but I'm pretty sure I'd be good friends with them if I did. And Sparklez was kind of one of those. And so no, without meaning or implying or anything or any of that, just was I think we'd be good friends, But nice. I completely nooped that. So I just watched, and eventually, as silly as it was, there was a My Night subreddit, and when they set up the My Night Season 2, they had grandiose plans and kind of overdid it a little bit. And one of the things that they needed for it to work was they needed extra players to be on to kind of act as, they call them NPCs, which is, I find funny, as a non-player character is the point, but basically not the talent,
not the talent.
Supporting cast. And I applied to be to help with that, and ended up getting accepted. And so I found myself working kind of behind the scenes on the My Night Season 2.
Oh, goodbye.
Best win. On the My Night Season 2 series. And through that, while we weren't supposed to, we technically weren't supposed to bother the talent. Some of our rules were pretty strict. And that we're, don't look them in the eye. It was. I'm not saying it was like full on like diva rules, but it was close. And it wasn't Sparkle's rules, but there was, like, don't bother us, don't get in our way, don't pull attention to yourselves, don't do. And I, for the most part, followed that until it became clear that we were trying to do a series and coordinate, and we didn't really have any good coordination with the actors, with the talent, with Spark, and so I kind of went on Twitter and went around the system a little and started trying, basically made contact, and they figured out, oh, this is this character in the game, and started being like, all right, we're doing this thing on this day, we should all be there, because there were a number of events that we tried to plan, and it was like one of the streamers wasn't feeling great or had something else, and it was really killing the schedule. So I just basically took my corporate management experience and started trying to just coordinate, we need to be here, this date is important, you can mess around on these other dates, but this date is important. And started trying to kind of bring things together a little bit that way. And through that, I got to know, even though we weren't supposed to talk to him or anything, I got to know Captain Sparklez a little bit. And then we went through that, and this is a long rambling story, but it's really the origin story. My Night finished, it was great, I had good times. I actually worked on My Night Season 3, which never developed, but I spent some time on that. And then eventually Jordan decided he wanted to do the RLCraft with Sunday and Craner, and so they needed some help with that. He asked me, he was like, do you know how to make mod packs, because we'd like a custom mod pack for this. And I was like, I absolutely do. I had no idea, but I wasn't about to say no, so I was like, I can figure this out, like, it's just it's just Minecraft, like I can work it out. And so we ended up making a custom mod pack for it and going through that. And that was a very different series in that Sunday was kind of in control of it. And he basically he was like, hey, if you have ideas of things to do, like, more chaos is better chaos, right? So he was all about, like, do your own trolls, do your own things, be involved. And I kind of became a little bit of a fourth character on that. Wasn't a headliner, but I definitely was involved. Much more so. And so after going through that, then we kind of finished, and Jordan had a better idea of who I was, and was like, hey, you seem to have occasionally funny thoughts. Do you want to record? And we worked out an agreement of recording together, because he at that time was making tons of content, but and so his thought was, hey, why don't you oh, he made it. Why don't you set up the server for me, and that way I can just log in and we can just play, and I can go, and I can save myself that much time because I'm so busy, and that you'll get the advantage of getting to be known to my audience and being a much bigger creator. That's it was win-win for both sides. And this was the long and tortured history of how I really got started. I did start streaming during the My Night era. However, we weren't allowed to stream My Night. Again, we couldn't, it was inappropriate for us to do anything to pull away from the talent in that series. So I streamed other things, but I started to create my own content and do my own pieces and things, and just kind of kept snowballing as I went.
I really like that you guys are, like, genuinely friends. Whenever you guys play together, like you and Jordan and Kara, it's very cool to see that you guys, like, are actually, like, you actually get along and actually seem to like each other. I
mean, we're just really good actors.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you actually all hate each other. Worst enemies.
Can't even stand. You know, like we've been friends for a long time. We've been doing this a long time. Like obviously, there's times we have disagreements and stuff, but you can't work with someone for years without having that. You know, and you talk about it after, and you work it out, and you come back the next day, get ready to work, and then over time things get better again. So I'm not like we have very different personalities, and that is at times interesting, but that isn't to say bad or anything like that. It can be interesting at times because we do come about or look at things very differently, but I also think that adds to the dynamic that we bring and the all the different pieces to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's the fun? Why watch content with multiple people if it's just the same people? Just like different versions of the same personality. I always find that very interesting as well. Oh.
It's like you need to have some dynamic, and you've got to be able to work together, but also and enjoy each other, but also recognize how to bring something different, but also work together. It's making a good meshing recording team is actually fairly difficult in a lot of ways. Like it's not as easy as you might hope, right? So, but still, we seem to do okay.
Yeah, and it's definitely enjoyable to watch you guys from like a viewer's perspective. Even like as I think I told you about this. Whenever I sent you that bee, we were just like chilling. It was, Kevin S was visiting for my wedding, and we were just sitting in a pho restaurant watching your stream, and we looked like iPad kids. It was horrible. But like for a while, you were just like playing Raft, and like we had a moment where we were like, oh, like neither of us really care about Raft. So I mean, and eventually we were.
Sorry, I was boring you.
And eventually, like just sitting there, we were. Oh, congratulations. Oh no, it let me recover. Thank you. Eventually we were just sat there, just like watching, because it was so entertaining. Despite neither of us having ever played Raft or caring about it at all, we were just like, this is so entertaining. And then the waiter made fun of us for sitting there watching a live stream. But it was good. It is
what it is, like I appreciate you watching, and yeah, no, that was a fun night. Like, everyone hanging out and getting to say hi and all that, like that's neat. I think that one of the things that I see, one of the big mistakes I see a lot in people who try and stream and do this is that they see the gaming aspect and they see the playing, and yeah, that's great and all, but there's in addition to that, there is everything about running your own small business, and and you need to have that mentality. You need to have that those skills, and that's all a big old mess that you have to kind of follow along with. Is the portion of the small business portion, and making sure that you understand how business works. And honestly, in streaming and in having it be my job, one of the most helpful things has been simply my corporate experience, which you wouldn't really think, but it really has provided a lot of benefit in that it gave me people management skills. My management has come in handy in dealing with community problems and aspects and coordinating things and all of those types of ideas, but also just but knowing how to talk to sponsors, knowing how to talk to other people and recognize how the business side of it all works and what you have to do to make it work.
Oh yeah, because it's more than just being funny and playing games. And I feel like a lot of people forget, especially, the 16-year-olds that decide they're going to stream, and then they start actually doing it and actually making some money, and they realize, oh no, I have to like run a business now.
Yeah, I mean, good for them if they get to the point where they're making money, because that's fairly rare in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, like the idea of streaming is getting paid to play games is so minuscule, and I understand that that's how it looks. That's how we try and present it. It's kind of like if you think of, not everybody's gonna get the reference, but for those people who have, know the OG like Sea Nanners, prop hunt videos, Sea Nanners and Chilled Chaos and Gassy Mexican and Sparklez or Markiplier, like back in the day. Like, you watch those videos and you're just like, wow, this is awesome. It's a group of friends just having a great time and you just want to watch it. You're there for it, right? And it's like, which isn't false, but it's like they have, those lobbies are arranged by a personal assistant for Sea Nanners who handles his scheduling, and they all work, like there's an entire business side to how all of that is being set up. And they show up and they do the recordings and they get a couple videos and they're like, all right, cool, bye. And like it's presented as casual gameplay, but it is very much a structured format and done in a way to create an entertaining show. And there's nothing wrong with that. I by no means am I saying that that's a problem, other than just, again, if you're looking at streaming, I want to get paid to play games. No one's paying to play games. Like, they're paying for you to entertain them, and you have the game is a backdrop for you to try and create an entertaining show around.
Oh yeah, the currency is people's attention, really. How can I keep people's attention in a way that platforms will pay me for, advertisers will pay me, sponsors will pay me? Do you have a story or a interaction with your community that really stands out to you as being your favorites, most memorable?
Yeah, I would. I have many interactions that I've enjoyed and great times and stuff. The one there's two that are kind of meaningful to me, and and they're similar but different. One of the things that you frequently get as a creator is, again, we're talking to we're talking to people who might feel a little socially outcast or just difficult, or and otherwise not as comfortable, and so I've had a few times a couple viewers that were in high school. I think both of the stories were starting around 15, which is a very difficult age for a lot of people. And they were just really struggling and having a hard time, and had, whether it was home problems, whether it was dealing with mental health and issues there, whatever it is, they were kind of on some tough times. And I kind of started trying to really help out and help them to feel better and be better, and however it is that I could go about doing that, to try and get them through basically these high school years that were so difficult for them. And for those, I don't know whether you're aware, but mental health advocacy has always been a big part of my platform. I was diagnosed with depression when I was in my early teens, and I've had it all my life, and it's part of living and part of being me. And that's just something you deal with. But mental health advocacy has just been a platform for me because of that, and I know and experience it and can talk to it a lot. So watching these two girls kind of, again, separately, different places, different times, but both of them going through similar things where they were just having extremely difficult times. One of them, eventually, we talked, and I was able to tell her at some point, like, basically, if you can make it to graduation, because she was considering self-harm, and I was helping her. At one point, I had a wellness check on her and got her to the hospital for some things that had happened. But I told her, if if you make it to graduation, then I will come to your graduation. And so a really meaningful moment for me was going and flying out, meeting her, and being there for her graduation, and getting to kind of share that moment with her, and being very proud of her for reaching that. And That was really cool. And the other one was somewhat similar, although I haven't met her, but there was one point where we actually had a Discord group of people that all cared strongly for her, that basically she would usually choose to talk to one of us or the other of us, and so we would communicate with each other to kind of coordinate, when did you last hear from her, what was her state of mind, that sort of thing. And at some point, it was actually while I was at it wasn't my first TwitchCon, but I think it was my second TwitchCon, I got a phone call from one of my mods who said that the group had reported in that she had been having an extremely difficult time, really bad day, big arguments with her family, etc. Wasn't in a great place. And so we all kind of started working together, figured out that she did seem to be in a point of crisis, and she had bought a shirt from me on my merch store, so I was able to use that purchase to actually call and send a wellness check with the police to her location, and she had made an attempt to hurt herself, and got her to the hospital before it was too late, and we were able to all as a group kind of come together and help her through that time. And she is since graduated and is a EMT, and is, the last I heard, is doing really well. And so those are kind of times that I'm really proud of, and just really show the strength of what the community can do for each other, and coming together and helping one another.
I love that. Having those sort of communities can really make or break those times for you. I also was diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder when I was in high school, and it was those communities that really made the difference. Just having people who, regardless of whether you know them in real life or not,
Sure,
really show you that, yeah, things might suck, but there are people who want to see you get through this, and who want to be there for the good times, because the good times are coming. All right. Well, I have almost taken up all your time, but I do have one more question for you before we get going. You're going to have to let me win this one, unfortunately. I hate to tell you that.
Okay. No, this is obviously, with a concluding thing, it needs to be you win.
Yep.
I understand.
That is how that works.
I get it.
I do think that's how that works. Oh, wow. All right.
Oh,
I've been bullied.
It was an accident. I accidentally won.
You're just that good. You accidentally win in all games. A professional gamer, one might say.
So what was your question?
So, having been creating content for, I think you said 7 years now.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who is considering starting making content, whether they want it to be their job or just a hobby? What advice would you give them before they get started?
Part of it, we touched on this slightly earlier, of you need to recognize that, primarily assuming you're doing the I want to make money, I want this to possibly be something, you need to recognize that you're running an entire business. You need to know how to sell yourself, because you're the product. You need to know how to sell for your sponsors and those people who are supporting you. So there's a whole lot of angles and aspects there that are all part of it. But in terms of, typically when people are asking, they're not asking, no one's interested in the realities of trying to run the business. What they're asking when they want advice is, how do I get people to watch me? And that is much more, there's a certain X factor, je ne sais quoi, if you will, that I can't tell you what it is, but you need to be compelling in a way that's different than all the tens of thousands of other people that are doing it. Most people, the biggest mistake I see is they, again, think the game is the reason people are showing up. Unless you are a top tier player in a popular game at an esports level, where you are practicing that game 6 to 8 hours a day to be better and to be able to make it do that much better on it, then you're probably not at a level where the gaming capability is that compelling. And the game probably, they can play it themselves if they're really that interested in it. So what it becomes is when you play like that, then you end up, and I feel like most of us have been there, to where you're like at your friend's house, like watching them play games and sitting on their couch, and you're just waiting for your turn with the controller, and it's not exactly fun. It's not, that's not the way. So you need to understand that you are using a game as a backdrop to create a show, to create an interesting, compelling show that people want to watch. And so playing the game is very secondary to it all. Obviously, it's a part of it, but it really isn't the main part. And I think that that's where a lot of people go quickly wrong, is, they feel like the game will carry them through. And as a creator that someone wants to watch, you need to be making it interesting the entire way. You might just be running through a forest in a game and you're just getting from point A to point B, but you've got to keep people from being bored. Like that's part of it. They need to be enjoying what they're doing and what they're watching. And so yeah, it takes a bit more than the game is a backdrop. And I know that some people hate hearing that, but to me, I just really believe that's very true. And I've seen people that can make very mundane games very interesting, and I've seen very interesting games be very boring depending on the player. A slightly more advanced tip would be also that you should be, if you're serious about it, you should be watching your VODs. You should be watching yourself and taking note of what are you doing that's dead air? What are you doing that's off-putting? Are you bored when you're watching yourself? Are you, you should be entertaining, and you should be able to watch yourself and feel like you're entertaining. If you can't stand yourself and can't stand to watch yourself, then why would you expect anyone else to? And along those same lines, the immediate response, which is the world's biggest eye roll for me, and I apologize, but is someone saying, I can't stand to hear my own voice. And it's like, yes, everybody and their dog all hates to hear their own voice recorded when they first started. You get over it, listen to it, get past it if it matters to you. Otherwise you're missing out on your biggest tool to improve, which is looking at what you've done and saying, how can I be better? Those are my primary tips, I'd say.
That second piece is something I've actually never heard before. I always get I've heard the game is the backdrop a couple times, and I do think that's really important to drive home, but I've never heard somebody suggest watching your own VODs. I think that's like everybody's worst nightmare when they first start.
No, and I guess it depends, because it's like, when I was, I had the opportunity, and I don't know him that well, but we had a conversation during TwitchCon where I was talking with a gassy Mexican, and that was some of his advice as well. We were talking, I think, about voice acting, but it's listen to your own recordings, figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're not, figure out how to improve it. But until you're going through and figuring out, saying, oh, I say too much, or whatever those pieces are, they recognize, wow, I got really intense right here and just had gamer face and didn't do anything, say anything for a good solid 3 minutes. I need to make sure I don't do that. Then you're not reassessing, you're not developing, you're just doing the same thing over and over because you're not giving yourself any feedback on what to be better at.
Right. That is very cool.
I have heard, I guess my point there was just, I have heard from people who I would consider to be top creators in the industry, and they are very much of the same, I think that you get to that level, you do hear, watch your VODs, review your content, because it is an extremely critical piece.
Oh yeah. And it's, if I had to guess, one of the harder pieces is to be comfortable doing that, and also be effective at criticizing yourself in productive ways. Like actually being able to see what can I improve on and how can I actually act on that.
I don't know, I can't speak to everybody. I didn't have that problem because it's like, I can tell whether, I could just tell, would this be entertaining to me? It was pretty easy for me to put myself in that place. But as for the comfort and stuff like that, again, that is something you just get over. Like, if you're going to, particularly if anyone who's doing YouTube stuff has to listen to themselves enough that they should be getting over it anyway at some point. But your voice sounds weird. It's not what you expect, but you know what? It's the same voice that all the people up to this point have been listening to all your life. Like, it is your voice. Accept it, move on, and as soon as the quicker you get past that point, the quicker you can start progressing and moving forward and understanding, or improving. It's very, I feel like kind of oddly strongly about it, where it's very frustrating that people use that as an excuse to not try and improve themselves. It's like, because it's universal. Everybody hates the sound of their like everybody. You're not you. I apologize. You're not unique. Everybody hates how they sound when they first hear themselves.
Oh yeah.
But like, I don't mind hearing me now. I've been doing it long enough. Like, it's just that's me now. I have recalibrated how I hear myself to where it's just my voice, and I've stopped being self-conscious about it. But if you can't have that self-confidence to get past that, then probably feeling like you should be putting yourself in front of an audience of people might be something to reconsider as well.
Yeah.
Probably the weirdest, although I will say this was slightly weird at TwitchCon, very surreal in terms of hearing yourself. I went into a booth for Goose Goose Duck, which is a kind of an Among Us style social deception game that's out, and they had a booth. And I walked in to say hi because I kind of knew some of the developers from the earlier days of it and when I had played it, and I heard me laughing. And I was like, why do I hear, like, that was literally, I entered the booth and went, why do I hear me? And the dev was like, you must be Zine. And I was like, I am. And they were like, hi. And it turned out I was on their highlight reel, just some clips and stuff. And I just walked in at just the right time to where my clip was playing on, however long this highlight reel was. And it was just like, okay, that was unexpected. I did not, you don't expect to be walking through TwitchCon and walk into some place and hear you talk, laughing and talking. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Recalibrating mental expectations, and I'm back. Okay, I just had a quick reboot. We're back in business. Let's go.
Turn the zine off and back on again. Yeah,
pretty much. I had a seg fault, needed to get it reset. So.
I imagine that had to be, because it's one thing when you're expecting to hear your own voice. When you're going back and looking at your VODs, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to hear my own voice. It's gonna be uncomfy if it's one of my first times doing it, but I know what I'm getting into. Just walking through, like, imagine walking through like Walmart. You just hear yourself. It's like, wait. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah, and it's not like you recorded lines or anything, so it's like, oh, I might hear myself, and like, no expectation. It's just all of a sudden over the loudspeaker you hear yourself like talking to something. You're like, what just paradox did I enter into? But figured it out, no big deal, but was certainly an interesting moment. It was great talking with you. Thank you for having me on and letting me win so many rounds.
Yeah, I was letting you win. I'm glad you caught on that I was letting you win.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. This has really been a pleasure. I am glad I could give you that sense of accomplishment from winning.
Yes.
I worked hard to suppress my my pro gamer skills. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
As you could tell, I'm a very competitive person.
I could see the conflict within you.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you so much. This has been Zine and his hot takes and his competitive spleef play. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.